Sorry, I just saw the invitation on LinkedIn. Apologies.
No problem.
But
Please,
I tried to promote the event.
thank you so much. Please accept it later.
I already accepted it, but yeah, it's right now.
Thank you.
Nessuno caga ai miei post. TV. Siamo anche su YouTube. Siamo su YouTube.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Scott. We are with you today with a very important topic related to community and one of the hot topics of local and small communities, which is regeneration. Our moderators today are with a wonderful team to bring this topic in a discussion and live. Francis is already one of the famous or popular moderators of Scott. He has been with us before with other webinars, and you know him already. But for those who join us for the first time, I introduce Francis again as you can see all speakers and moderators information in the website. He's a PhD in tourism, University of Girona, Spain, and PhD in communication in Lille University. He's associate professor, Sarah Hunter, at the Department of Business, University of Girona. Is undertaking research on culinary and rural heritage from marketing and travel perspectives. Previously, he focused on food tourism phenomenon. In bracket, I just say that he's a award winner. You can find him online. Making connections among food identities, landscapes, regional development, rural activities, street food, and tourist experience. Frances is already well known with us. We have a second moderator today, who is Asif. Dr. Asif is a PhD in strategic and a strategic consultant and founding director of Sustainability and Resilience Institute, SRI, in New Zealand, as well as the founder of the award-winning Smart Regenerative Tourism app dedicated to transforming tourism for a better tomorrow. Asif's work draws on the ancestral wisdom of the indigenous people, emphasizing the importance of collective community resilience, environmental stewardship, and the interconnectedness of humans with a natural world. Two of our moderators are ready to introduce the theme and the topic, and we are eager to learn, and we are all in your service. Without any ado, I'm going to pass on the floor to the moderators, Francesc and Asif. And we are here with you, me and Professor Malcolm Cooper, our rapporteur, who is going to join the discussions at the very end with a summary and wrap up of the discussions. Francesc, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Kasem. On behalf of Asif and myself, it's a pleasure being here today. Also hosting this webinar as part of the series of the Scott webinars. I'll share now my screen. Okay, and okay, then first of all, we would like to introduce the panelists for the webinar. The webinar is titled Co-Creating Tourism Values Through Regeneration. And we are grateful and thankful for having the following panelists for the session today. So after we do this small presentation of the topic and some remarks about relations between regeneration and tourism, we are pleased not to introduce the panelists. So first of all, Elena Matei, PhD, is a postdoctoral research fellow at Ca' Foscari University of Venice, where she is working on the national research project Dietali, which means Destination Italy in English translation and language over the years, in collaboration with the Italian National Tourist Board. Shortlisted for the Paul Fortier Prize, she is publishing also a Routledge monograph on Instagram tourism discourse and collaborates with John Bateman. Her research interests include the annotation and statistical analysis of tourism multimodal corpora through systemic functional linguistics frameworks. The objective of her research is to promote regenerative travel, a topic discussed also in interviews with Randstad Research and La Repubblica. Also with Elena, they will together present with Stefania M. Machi, PhD from Lancaster University, United Kingdom. Stefania is a full professor of English language, translation, linguistics, and at the University of Bergamo, where she is coordinator of the MA in Digital Humanities, director of the Research Center on Specialized Languages, and scientific coordinator of the Research Group on Digital Humanities. She served on the executive board of AIA, Associazione Italiana di Anglistica, from 2019 to 2023, and she is now serving on the executive board of Critical Approaches to Discourse Analysis across disciplines. Her research is focused on the study of the English language in academic and professional contexts, with particular regard to the analysis of tourism and medical discourses. We are also pleased to introduce Frida Marie Oma. Frida is an indigenous junior scholar from Norway, Sápmi, currently completing a doctorate in nature guiding and sustainable tourism. Her research interests include also regenerative tourism, animal ethics, climate change, and indigenous nature relations. Having worked as a nature guide and educator in outdoor recreation, and now as a political advisor in visitor management, Frida thinks that collaboration between stakeholders is key for regenerative transformations in tourism systems. And finally, we send the participants and also the audience today apologizes from Alessandro Imbersini because he had a family health related problem which prevented him being here today with us. But as he also been working on the concept specifically of regenerative hospitality, I'll also introduce his profile. As Alessandro Imbersini works as a full professor in marketing at EHL Hospitality Business School in Switzerland. Alessandro is expert in digital communication and digital transformation. And over the years, he has also developed an expertise in regenerative economies. Thanks to a series of funded research projects in different parts of the world, Alessandro had the possibility of meeting regenerative pioneers and champions all over the world, contributing significantly to the understanding of the concept of regeneration in the fields of travel, tourism, and hospitality. So thank you very much again, Elena, Stefania, and Frida, and also extending the apologizes from Alessandro to all of you. So we are pleased to introduce these first slides together with Hasif about the concepts around the co-creation of tourism values through regeneration. So as a welcome from our side, so during the webinar, we will explore how these complex and dynamic relations between regeneration and tourism can contribute to both local communities, but also, of course, to visitors to destinations around the world. How this regeneration in tourism is focused on both cultural and natural values, on how the revitalization of both culture and nature, and the co-creation of values around the heritage and the traditions that emerge from these cultural and environmental factors are crucial in developing and planning regenerative tourism, and how this is related to the efforts that local communities do in terms of restoration, in terms of preservation, and also in terms of how this regeneration in tourism also informs about the resilience of different communities in different parts and different geographical and territorial realities in our world. And as in the last point, so how this regeneration concept also supports the resilience of the ecosystems as, again, combination of cultural and environmental factors that also are a foundation to develop meaningful visitor experiences. And of course, as part of the presentations that Elena and Stefania and Frida will share with us today, we will explore these complex dynamics on the building of regenerative tourism and the challenges and opportunities that emerge from the concept, but also the strategies that can contribute to engage the different stakeholders and also the different interests that are part of a tourism system, and in this case, part of a regenerative tourism system. So now I'll give the word to Hasif.
Thank you, Francis. As you all know, New Zealand has been a tourism destination for quite some time. Earlier in 2000, 100% pure New Zealand brand for tourism was introduced, and they did a significant promoted New Zealand significantly globally and attracted a significant number of tourists from worldwide. Just before COVID, New Zealand received about 3.9 million tourists per year, and it was New Zealand's largest export industry, and generating our $41 billion in revenue. So around that time, just before COVID, various destinations in New Zealand started to see negative impacts of tourism, particularly in popular destinations like Queenstown and Accra, for instance, in relation to cruise ship industry, that how it was significantly impacting the local communities and host communities, and there was quite a significant backfire towards tourists. So a parliamentary commission report was produced since most of the tourism and tourism products that New Zealand offers rely significantly on natural environment. So that report played a significant role in drawing attention towards that how we could protect our natural environment while promoting our country. So that Parliamentary Commission report 2019 made significant recommendations, and while the country didn't have enough time to respond to those recommendations, so we were hit with COVID-19. Our borders were closed for a significant amount of time, and we closed our border for almost 2 years. And the talk around tourism industry was that it was a good opportunity, it was seen as a good opportunity to transform tourism industry. And Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment and other government agencies, they work towards encouraging tourism operators and other industry stakeholders to pivot towards regenerative tourism. And where it was seen as tourism ensures that it gives back more to people and places that that they visit instead of taking from those destinations. And a good number of research papers were published during this time, and a significant difference between sustainability and regeneration or regenerative tourism was introduced, where it was seen that tourism as maintaining status quo, while regeneration as restoring, renewing, and healing the environment. And one good thing that came out from just before the Parliamentary Commission report was Tiaki Promise, where it was encouraged tourists to look after the environment and care for land, sea, and nature, and travel safely, show care and consideration for others. And all these things show that how New Zealand tourism was being impacted by mass tourism. Next, Francis. Yeah, please. So while just after COVID, around that time, a new tourism task force was formed to recommend to the government that what significant changes that the government could do to reduce the negative impacts of tourism. And the report was published the later in 2021, and it made a significant, very good recommendations. But simultaneously, MB, Ministry of Business, also introduced destination management guideline, where various RTOs in New Zealand that are responsible to manage and bring tourists to those destinations, they were encouraged to develop their destination management plans so that they are in line with Ministry of Business guidelines, and which is to pivot towards regenerative tourism. At the same time, government introduced innovation program for tourism recovery, where various projects were people, destinations, organizations, and consultants were encouraged to come up with various projects, creative ideas, innovation, technology-related projects that would help government to pivot industry towards regenerative tourism. So it was that time we put a proposal forward and to develop a regenerative tourism app, and where we wanted to promote New Zealand as a regenerative tourism destination while measuring carbon emissions of every single tourist that comes to New Zealand from the time he or she leaves their home country, comes to New Zealand and travel within the country, and they'll go back to their home country. So we developed a model and ways how GHG emissions could be measured and how that individual tourist can offset those emissions. So we won an award through Stream 1, and then we were shortlisted for Stream 2. But unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, that there has been a significant inconsistencies in the government policies. So when the government changed 2 years ago, the government closed down that innovation program for tourism recovery and all those projects, and they got funding to develop that proposals to innovate tourism industry. Those projects face a significant disruption. A number of projects they couldn't continue, but we were lucky that we had secured some funding. So we proceed with the proposal, and now we are developing that app, and it is in the development stage at the moment. And in next couple of months, we are hoping to launch it. So that is a significant impact that we see in New Zealand from the government inconsistencies in the policies. And the second thing we notice is DMPs. All those 31 DMPs, destination management plans, were developed. They did not come with the funding to implement those DMPs. So millions of dollars that have been spent on various destinations. They have developed their plans, but they have got no funding to implement those DMPs. And we see that all around, all the RTOs, their fundings have been cut down. And here in Christchurch, we have got one DMP for Banks Peninsula and one for Christchurch. And there is no funding to implement those recommendations. Next, Francis. And while we were doing this work, working with innovation program, and we have been publishing significantly, and we developed a framework for regenerative tourism first that led to developing a model of regenerative tourism model. And then we developed indicators of regenerative tourism that Francis will explain further. And mostly we looked at those indicators not just from one side, we looked at it from both from demand perspective and from supply perspective. And the three themes that came up during our research and feasibility studies that we conducted for this project came around the originality, authenticity, and activities that people come to New Zealand. They want to participate in healthy activities and symbolism that relate to ethic and rooted in cultural and consciousness, that people who want to come to New Zealand, they want to travel in a way that they're contributing to this culture. They're not just taking, using those destinations as rather consuming those tourism products, but they are giving back to those destinations as well. Next, Francis. So 2 days ago on Thursday, Tourism NZ, they rebranded the 100% pure New Zealand brand that was introduced in 2000. And now they have created a twist with the branding, and it says that find your 100% in New Zealand. So that's what the aim of the brand is. Every visitor in New Zealand has a unique experience without compromising, and living 100%, live in New Zealand 100% fulfilled through our incredible blend of nature, people, and culture. We are inviting the world to visit New Zealand, find their 100% pure New Zealand. So this is a really good marketing brand, but again, I would see it as a marketing strategy, which still has to play out. Government is spending over $5 million in this global campaign. So again, it shows kind of an inconsistencies in the government policies throughout the COVID that we have seen, and after COVID, pivot to regenerative tourism, and now we are spending a significant amount of money to attracting international tourists, which could potentially lead to mass tourism where we were prior to COVID. So one video that they developed, I just would like to share that, and gives an overview of this new campaign where we are in New Zealand as we speak. Francis.
Should I play the video now, Chief?
Yes, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so just to finalize, no, and in connection also to the video, part of the research, no, we have been working on during the last years is also materialized in this handbook. So we are thankful, no, again to the panelists today, no, Elena, Stephanie, and Frida, who also contributed their expertise to the handbook, but also others from the audience. I did see before that Arno, Elizabeth, or Magdalena, who joined this webinar as guests, they also contributed to the handbook. And this is a handbook which is published this month, and which includes both more foundational and theoretical debates about the configuration of regenerative tourism, but also discusses examples on practice, like best practice stories, also examples of local impacts, from regenerative tourism initiatives in terms of cultural impacts, social impacts, economic impacts, environmental impacts. And then also there is a part applied to the specialist examples, or specialized manifestations of regenerative tourism through food, through sports, through nature-based activities. So the handbook tries to provide a specific picture of the current situation of regenerative tourism. Also going back to these more conceptual and philosophical foundations, but also moving forward in terms of how the future can contribute to a more regenerative approach in the management and marketing, but also in the planning and development of tourism systems. And the last couple of slides. Here we wanted to include this slide. This was just we prompted an AI tool to create an image of what is regenerative tourism. And well, of course, there are we could debate about this picture, or we can do that later. But it shows this connection between cultural identity, traditions which are linked to the agricultural practices, for example, but also this approach to nature. So how we as humans know people is a small part of the environment where we take part, the environment that hosts us and the environment that nurtures us. And this is important on how we create this, co-create these connections with a place, with a destination. And we also included this collage of pictures because for sure, and we have discussed this in other venues, on how we measure tourism, and again after COVID, there was a period on the shift, from previous tourism to new tourism was or seemed clearer. But after a few years after COVID, we realized that destinations, again, they measure success in terms of figures, in terms of numbers of visitors on overnights, and still, we need to implement this regeneration in tourism from a more general, broad, robust way, because for sure there are plenty of initiatives that work towards regeneration in tourism, but mainstream marketing channels still, as we have also discussed, when Hasif explained this marketing strategy from Tourism New Zealand. And I like here to explain an example in Spain. There is a region in the northwestern part of Spain, which is Galicia, and there is a concept which is called furancho. And furancho is an establishment, a place which provides dining experiences to visitors, but this is strictly regulated by law. So you can only have a furancho if you have your own wine growing space, because furanchos initially they were thought as a place where the owners of the wine growing area, they could sell the surplus of wine together with some food that they were cooking at home, as part of their own family meal. And the law strictly kept in this sense. So you can have a furancho only if you have the wine growing area, and then you can only provide a list of 5 dishes that you need to select from a total list of 10, which are 10 dishes which are part or representative of the local culinary identity, And then you pick 5 of these, which are the only offer that you have in addition to the selling of your own wine. And this is an interesting concept because it connects with this agricultural activity, which at the end is the origin of the furancho, but it's part of the economic activity of the family. So you just work the land, in this case for winemaking, and then you cook your own meal, which now you can offer also during a limited period of time, because furanchos are only able to open 3 months a year. So this is not a competence for restaurants or other dining experiences. The issue here is how they keep the connection of this establishment, with, let's say, dining establishment, with the agricultural activity. So the dining space is not the main reason for the furanchos. The main reason is still not the wine making. And with this example and these pictures, we like to thank you for your attention. And now I'll stop sharing the screen, and we are pleased to introduce Stefania Machi and Elena Matei, who will explain with a presentation titled "For a Future Regeneration, Modeling Effective Tourism Communication for Social Ecological Development of Local Communities and Destination." So Elena and Stefania, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much for your introduction. Ours is a communicative approach to regenerative tourism. We would like to show how we can communicate such best practices. And our presentation, we will offer in our presentation a multidisciplinary approach to regenerative discourse, and drawing on Bellato and Pollock 2023, we will show how to restore ecosystems, cultures, and local communities. It is, as I said before, a communicative proposal about regenerative tourism discourse, and we will integrate semiotics and linguistics and large-scale statistical analysis with data-driven taxonomies. We then present a case study, which, communicatively speaking, is a best practice that Playa Viva. And this will be followed by, of course, the analysis and the discussions, to which we are adding some conclusion and future steps. The multidisciplinary approach is based on, our idea started from UNESCO's priorities for the range time 2022-2029, which includes an attention to climate action, cultural heritage preservation in the digital era. And we realize that there are some research gaps in these social and UNESCO priorities. There are some early stage studies on social media's role in encouraging or discouraging over tourism. Most analyses have been carried out on a corpus linguistic methodological approach, or natural language processes methodological approach, but they mostly are based on the text image interaction and offer a qualitative approach. There is basically no attention to the discourse on regenerative tourism. So we are proposing, and this is our project, in particular the project Elena is working on, using linguistic and visual analysis to develop critical tools for promoting regenerative tourism. On the table on the right, you will see our framework and what, in particular, Elena is going to start investigate on in order to offer best way to communicate to the public the discourse of regenerative tourism.
And so our proposal, as you may have inferred, builds on applied linguistics and in particular systemic functional linguistics. And so the idea that language as other science, such as work together apparently to promote a particular view, in this case, of the destination. The objective is to design guidelines, as Stefania mentioned, to promote regeneration and a sense of spiritual and economic well-being that involves all stakeholders in the regenerative experience, as well as equitable development and revitalization and restoration of land. We are basing our studies on management literature as to avoid greenwashing, the promotion and the dissemination of greenwashing practices. So we start from the assumption that the case studies we analyze are actually using a business model built on regeneration. So our research questions are two. How can we convey the principles by the UN, by the regenerative literature on management, communicated effectively and persuasively to prospective travelers? And how can we leverage the desire for the unexplored, the uncontaminated, the unknown, to raise awareness of environmental and cultural protection? For these purposes, we are going to implement visual and linguistic annotation followed by statistical analysis and qualitative implications. And we are going to, in particular, compare traditional, neoliberal, therefore sustainable and regenerative discourse and see how to integrate them best in order to propose an appealing yet mindset and view of the destination. As I mentioned, we're going to use a systemic functional linguistics as the basis, as our framework. Systemic functional linguistics sees language as one of the signs to communicate and achieve particular objectives in society based on the context. So in our case, we have digital tourism, Instagram, and all of its implications. Systemic functional linguistics works perfectly in our case because it allows us to compare how languages, sign, and images achieve purposes, and motor regenerative set. Particular language and images do particular representations, the use of verbs, nouns, adjectives, as well as participants and settings. The interpersonal metafunctions is evaluative language to create emotional consumption and connection. Through imagery, this is achieved through shots and angles. And textually speaking, we can explore how both means of communication work together in the context on the channel for a particular audience to persuade and prompt a particular behavior. So signs can create in regenerative tourism a sense of authenticity, extraordinariness, a recharging experience without playing only on the romantic ideology and neoliberal ideology of nature as a resource and object of consumption. Our case study is Playa Viva, leading example in regenerative travel and business management. It is an eco-luxury resort in Mexico with oceanfront tree houses powered by solar energy entirely. It offers in particular opportunities to engage in local activities such as turtle sanctuary volunteering and contributing to community land restoration. So working with local communities and volunteers hired by the Playa Viva to keep the land alive without exploiting it. For the purpose of this presentation, we are analyzing two posts. In the first post, you can see on the left an image which depicts the village, the treehouse village, oceanfront, surrounded by a natural and pristine environment from a top-down angle. So from a position of superiority, and control. This assigns a position of consumption, of emotional and perceptive consumption, and aligns with the romantic ideology of, perceiving nature as an object of consumption, gratification of the senses. So this is ideological, but we can see the palapas, so the tree houses, also referring to the idea of generation, and we will see that it has a visual, a linguistic anchoring that propose a particular storytelling, a regenerative storytelling. We can see from the analysis of the language, of the linguistic unit, that we have a combination, a good deal of both traditional and sustainable/regenerative practices. We have processes of cognition and imagination with imagine, need, and desire, need, experience, supported by the use of green terminology, powered by solar and agency, powered by solar, to table, as well as the reference to ego targeting techniques, so addressing and singling out the reader, the tourist, with the pronoun you, but also the reference to evaluation strategies such as nutritious food, with, however, focuses on physical restoration. On the other hand, we have an image of a turtle, a baby turtle, trying to reach the sand and the sea. And we have a lot of attention to the company image branding, as I will explain in the final part of the presentation. So do we have agency, interaction, or consumption in these practices, or all of three? In general, we've seen that, and we are still in the process of analyzing all of the strategies, especially from a quantitative perspective, we can see an invitation to collaboration through call to actions, as well as a promotion of Playa Viva's efforts, so which are called face-saving acts, according to Goffman, right? This, however, promotes and fosters engagement, right? Material processes, so processes of action, verbs of action, promote involvement, and assign to nature agency. So it is not only an object of consumption, an object of imagination through imagine these pristine lands or witness these incredible creatures. Nature is not only a direct object, it can become an object, right? Powered by assigns agency. So solar, the sun powers the palapas. Evaluative adjectives are related to particular semantic domains, and this can be exploited for reasons I will say in the conclusions. And languaging techniques, so the use of vernacular language, enhances place identity. So the reference, the use of particular terms that are considered appealing because also remind of the identity of the place, the unique and particular identity of the place. So we have a deal of calling for accountability, but also persuasion. All of this is enhanced by the imagery. So I've mentioned that there is the use of top angle drone views that enhances a romantic gaze of consumption. But on the other hand, we have leading lines drawing the attention to elements like the palapas. In the second image, we have a more regenerative approach because we have a close-up. So a sense of close connection with nature, and which symbolizes attachment. But at the same time, there is an action process. So the turtle is moving. We can see that it is not posing at all. It is unconscious of that, unaware of that. So this assigns agency and to some degree consciousness, intention to nature. It's not just an element, an inanimate element for appreciation, for aesthetic appreciation. The final point that I want to make is that we can integrate this element. We can integrate both sustainability, regeneration, and neoliberalism, obviously decreasing the attention to liberalism, by anchoring visual meaning through language. So we can propose, by annotating linguistic units, we can combine, syntagmatic elements, paradigmatic elements to construct a prosody, so a texture of linguistic units that tell a particular story, that propose through that propose through particular semantic fields, emotions, and evaluation, a story of care, a story of mutual enrichment, a story of land revitalization and protection, appreciation, through the description of nature as complex, as fragile, as interdependent. It's not just something separate from us that we can exploit. So the final aim is to propose a taxonomy that will combine carefully all of the adjectives, nouns, verbs, in a way that particular semantic fields related to regeneration, sustainability, affection, emotional, and empathetic attachment are combined with some particular verbs that assign power to nature and all of stakeholders. So attention to lexical and grammatical functions, subjects and object and direct object distribution. This has applications from a market, hopefully from a marketing, educational, citizens and content user perspective, so that everyone can develop critical and digital as well as multisemiotic literacy to understand what is going on the web and try to contribute to alternative narratives. So thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Elena and Stefania. So now I'm pleased to introduce again Frida Marie Oma. She will present her work on relational guiding for regenerative tourism transformations. Frida, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. So I will want today to introduce you to a concept which is relational guiding, some philosophical and practical thoughts, how relational guiding can contribute to regenerative tourism transformations. And this is in a context of the Arctic and 4 years of ethnographic fieldwork and some summative findings from my PhD, with mainly that focus on nature guides or tour guides working in nature-based tourism, but also interviews and conversations with expert and key informants like culture bearers and other important stakeholders in the tourism industry. So the context is northern Norway, but it's also a region called Sápmi, which is the indigenous territory of the Sami people. And we live here in Tromsø, and the study area is marked in the circle, and I call it north of Tromsø. As you can see on the map, it's a very varied area when it comes to nature. It's both mountains, coast, islands, but also very varied in culture. So the Norwegian and the Sami culture is very mixed with each other, including other minority groups. So it's a very diverse region, but also it's got affected negatively by colonization and different land use and an increased mass tourism in the city of Tromsø. So the people are worried that there will be mass tourism situations like in the city. So this is some of the context that the research is based in. And why relational guiding? Well, it can be seen as both as a way of being and thinking for nature guides, and they are a central role in co-creating values in tourism experiences. They are mediating nature and culture for tourists, and also are an important role in the community as an inhabitant and also as a business owner. So I focus on guides that are living and working in the community, opposed to seasonal guides. And the main building blocks that relational guiding consists of are ethics of care, local knowledge, and regenerative tourism approaches. And today I want to extend this and say that we should also learn from relational perspectives and take that into visitor management and tourism planning for more regenerative transformations. And some background on nature guides in Scandinavia, because they are usually educated in outdoor recreation, the Norwegian concept called friluftsliv, which is quite a Western concept where you focus on slow adventure, learning in nature, and the focus is on the physical activity itself rather than mediating nature and culture to the guests, and risk and safety, which is of course important. But I want to extend this further by suggesting that we need to take, in similarity to regenerative tourism theories, indigenous knowledge is very important, and knowledge inspired by nature. So I have looked on how we can integrate Sami knowledge and practices into the guiding principles or the way guides are acting with and nature, and how they are mediating this to the guests. And some qualities of Sami knowledge is that there are intangible meanings in the landscape, and you acknowledge non-human actors, both living and non-living, and act with respect and reciprocity towards them. And activities in nature are not only something you do in your spare time, but it's a part of everyday life. And norms of regeneration are important. You should always give back what you take, and pay appreciation to the surroundings. So a general view that we live in a more than human world where we are not the less hegemonic than maybe Western and capitalistic views on sustainability. And that's why I wanted to focus on regenerative approaches and ethics of care. And I believe that caring practices and ethics of care are important for relational sustainable approaches. And some examples of that are there are more potential for restoration projects, and the findings of the research show that conflicts can be solved through focusing on interspecies coexistence, because many of the nature guides have close relations to animals, but also other non-human actors that are not living and are inspired by how nature works, and say that we as humans should also learn from our non-human actors that live in a sort of coexistence, and then implement this in decision making and planning as well. So moving with care, both in a practical way where you pay attention to other living beings and sacred places in the landscape, and you implement this in the tourist experience. But also the decision makers and planners should implement this more on a daily basis. For example, in marketing, to avoid stereotypes and to highlight the hidden stories of place. And the third building block is local knowledge. And why is this relevant to regeneration? Well, regeneration is context specific, and so is local knowledge. It's created with the landscape and relating to human and non-human lives in an ethical way. And if you want to read more on this, that's possible in my research, but now it's just a quick overview of some of the elements that relational guiding consists of. But I resonate with the Kimmerer, who write about reciprocal restoration, and that local knowledge, and especially traditional ecological knowledge, is important for restoration and for places and communities and nature to thrive. And now then to how can we create regenerative tourism in northern Troms? Well, relational guiding here is relevant because regenerative thinking is relational and always thinking in the relations of a place and paying respect to them. And an example of this is the Sami social relations Vertvotta, which means that you have relations built over many years. So traditionally, Sami reindeer herders were migrating from the mountains to the coast and visiting Sami coastal families, and you always exchanged services on products, but also the social relations, like family, friendship bonds. And I suggest that we should learn from this concept and bring that into regenerative tourism approaches for more reciprocal relations between businesses and tourists and guides and local inhabitants and ecology and cultural heritage sites. And in this way, transformative experiences can be offered to tourists in an ethical way and potentially foster care. And then I want to extend this and have a comment on the implications for visitor management and tourism planning. And you can see here there are some photos, there are mountain biking, whale watching boats, hiking signs. So now I'm talking very broadly speaking in that this can be implemented in different activities and experiences and also places. And here are some photos of some trails. And this is an example of how the visitor management in Norway at the moment is not relational nor regenerative because it's very human-centered and we focus on small infrastructure and without paying attention to non-human actors' needs and the stories in the landscape, but rather the human needs. And the sign we have on the left side is the only information provided to hikers in an area. And so this is from a governmental policy standpoint, and it's just an example of how we could develop this further and make more relational practices in planning, but also it points out how important a guide is and people and local inhabitants meeting tourists and being a role model. And on the second photo, we can see some hikers looking at a sign. The sign tells stories about the Stone Age culture, where the Stone Age people made how they lived and how they made a living from seals and cooking oil. And that's the only visitor management action at this place. It also struggles with visitors that tramples the ground and make a lot of paths. So this is a general issue in Norway that the soil is degraded in many places, but we have a special legislation called the Outdoor Recreation Act and the right to roam. So everyone are allowed to walk freely in nature, and that's a problem now as tourism is increasing and also a lack of relational approaches. And just a short example, on the third photo, you can see a path which is made in order to try and protect the marsh. But because it's not adapted to the landscape and to the situation, then people just decide to step out on the marsh, and it's destroyed anyways. So I believe more regenerative approaches are needed in planning and visitor management. And some last reflections on the findings of research. We see that there is a big potential for more collaboration within the region, especially between business partners and tour guides and local inhabitants like NGOs and cultural institutions, to increase the values of tourism and to make tourism more regenerative. But especially there is a lack of regenerative mindset and relational values, since people are trying to survive working in tourism is not easy in this environment, and the seasons are changing and climate change are making it harder and more unstable. So a collective mindset shift where everyone are working together for the same goal is necessary. And here, if those relational values can be enhanced and the regenerative approaches are potentially there, then communities would be empowered and would experience cultural revitalization and experience that the indigenous cultures are more proud and they are can be more diversified within the tourism industry than they are today, and also to empower those stories that are hidden in the landscape. And if you're interested in reading more about the theories and literature I've used, you can find that in the references. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me on my email, and I would thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Frida. So we'll have now a 2-minute cultural break, where we will share with you a small video, while we also reflect about the different outputs of these presentations. And then we'll have around 20 minutes for the questions and also the report from Malcolm Cooper. So I'll share this small video as part of the cultural break, and then we'll proceed to the final part of the webinar.
Ko rangi nui e tū iho nei.
Rangi Nui is our Sky Father.
Ko tāne mahuta, nāna te ngahiri.
Tāne Mahuta is our forest.
Ko Papa Tuanuku e takoto nei.
Papa Tuanuku is our Earth Mother.
Ko Tangaroa, nāna te moana, ki usa. Ko ngā awa me ngā roto.
Tangaroa is our ocean, our rivers, our lakes.
Ko Aotearoa, tō tātou ukai.
New Zealand is our home. It is precious. Everyone who lives and travels here has a responsibility to look after it.
Te aki means to care for people and place. The Tiaki Promise is a commitment to care for New Zealand, for now and for future generations.
To care for land, sea and nature, treading lightly and leaving no trace.
To travel safely, showing care and consideration for all.
To respect culture, travelling with an open heart and mind.
While travelling in New Zealand, follow the Tiaki Promise. Act as a guardian.
Protect and preserve our home.
Help us care for New Zealand.
Okay, so yeah, the video also resonates with the importance of knowledge about language, and how the meanings and symbolism of language that Stefania and Elena talk about, but also about knowledge about around the locality, and how this local based or local embedded knowledge that Frida also talked about during her presentation is a crucial part of this enhancement of what local culture means, what local nature means, and how this more than human approach can contribute towards a more regenerative understanding of tourism futures. So I'm not sure, Kazem, if I should take the comments from the chat, or you will do that, or how you want.
Thank you very much. I think we have a question already from Dr. Willie. Maybe you can bring it to the floor and let's, anybody from the panel who want to answer this question? You want me to read it?
Yeah,
or?
Willie Legrand is asking, that. Sorry. Yeah, you want to share it directly? Okay, sorry.
No, it's great. It's great, Frances. Just a quick note to thank everybody around this. This was super interesting. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was more. I'm sorry, because it's more of a generic questions about the order of things, and maybe we're thinking about this wrong. But I've heard now quite a few people that are saying, well, regenerate first, then sustain. And I was wondering this is why it's a bit contentious, because my question was, how do you mainstream regeneration? And that was basically my question. And I was wondering whether what I was looking at is the wrong way, or the discussion. But basically the idea was, how do you mainstream something which is still very much in boutique? And I think you've mentioned some stuff about sort of how to reframe success. I think a lot of it will be around that as well. But anyways, that was a generic question, so I don't know if you want to go into it, but thank you.
Well, thank you so much. If I may provide my opinion on this. I think that your question or reflection is a key issue, because as you said, it's not only about regenerative tourism, but an overall business model change and paradigm reframing. So I think that we both need, as I mentioned in our presentation, there cannot be communication without policies and management that truly address regenerations. Otherwise, it's another type of greenwashing. And I think it unfortunately it might take time to make it mainstream, because we need a lot of investments, and to have investments in this kind of a new industry, but I do not call it industry because otherwise it's neoliberal, a neoliberal term. In this new idea, we need people to change their mind as well. So people in power in the government need to have these change this growth and in undiscriminated growth-oriented policies. They need to change that. So understand that community involvement starts first from the ordinary life. So not only when travel takes place, and plus investing in education. So it's an effort on the part of everyone, and this can start from the bottom. So any one of us, we can be students, then we need to engage critically with what we see online. But if we are educators or if we are just citizens concerned about the environmental impact of what we do in our everyday life, up to the top level of organization, so politicians, government, change of policies. So I think that for every big change, we need both of these movements. And then, I mean, communication can play a key role in disseminating that, but it cannot take place without change at the managerial and mindset level. This is my opinion.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, there is the worry out there to have regeneration being hijacked by the corporate powers. I'm just waiting to see sort of the slogan coming out from those guys saying we have regenerative fast fashion. Do you know what I mean? Like something crazy like this. Really, I am really worried. I am really worried about what this term, how, and we see this happening already, how regeneration in other sectors, but also in ours, is being hijacked a little bit. So I think the work that you're doing is extremely important to be able to settle a little bit this understanding across the board.
Yeah, regeneration without that, it's another question. And sustainability is completely, there cannot be sustainability. I mean, sustainability is still in neoliberal, in a neoliberal framed, in a neoliberal concept. So the idea that, yes, we exploit nature and we try to lessen our impact, but still we impact. Instead, as also the moderators and the other presenters showed, it's about having a positive impact. It's about giving more than what we receive. And it's about tourists at the service of the territory, not the other way around. Then sustainability cannot take place. I mean, it's a change of paradigm. It can be scary, but it's the only way forward, I think.
Thank you. It's a really good question, Ali. And it's really hard to answer this question because while there is a willingness to change tourism industry towards regenerative tourism, at the same time, from within the industry and from outside the industry, there is a notion of fight back. And as Francis mentioned, we see success of tourism in terms of numbers, that we have this many tourists visited. So that needs systemic changes. We have seen here in New Zealand already, based on the funding availability, policy and terminologies bouncing back and forth, and we have seen that change in the past few years. Every year there is a new policy, so there's funding available there. So we move back there, and if the funding is stopped, then we move to a different direction. So that is quite a sad thing that we are seeing, but it is there. And you're rightly in saying that this term will be hijacked, and we are seeing here in New Zealand there are a few marketing slogans. They are using this terminology by twisting a little bit here, and we are regenerative. But when you look at holistically the impact of the tourism experience or that tourism product, then it is not. They are negatively impacting those host communities, and they are degrading the environment in one way or the other. But in one aspect, they say we are regenerative, and it's really hard question to answer.
Frida, you wanted to also share your insights.
Yes, and if I may add, I agree with all what was said. And in my work as a political advisor, I'm very careful not to overuse the term regeneration, because it's very easy to take that and make that the slogan of a tourism strategy. And what I really look at is trying to translate the regenerative principles in what it means for the politicians and for the municipality and the local inhabitants and businesses. And this is important to that it shows in what we do, because what we really need to make regeneration happen is a change in legislation. So both in how external companies can come and use our natural and cultural resources without giving anything back, and then they leave again after the Northern Lights season or the whale season. So this is something we struggle with, is keeping the value creation within the municipality. And that's why we're very happy to maybe next year launch a tourist tax, because this is something we are lacking. And because we have the right to roam, it's also very hard to control the masses of companies and individual tourists who come. And that's why I think legislation and policies are important, so that we can control tourism and make criterions that those who are able to operate here must give back to the community and to nature. So this is very important, and we need the funding, of course, and the criteria to use the funding. So this is something we are working on right at the moment.
Yes, many thanks. And we have now another question specifically about the New Zealand situation. No, Nashu Hongyan Lee says that looking at the policies and managements in New Zealand, it's surprising, not this understanding. And I mean that the understanding of regenerative tourism from different regions is different, and also meanings announced by the MBIE in 2019, 2022 are different. So what we do think about the situation, no? So being there's this changing in the understanding of the topic, and also that different regions got different understandings. Maybe Asif, you want to share here some insights.
Yes. To answer this, we just have to look back into tourism industry itself, whether it is a true industry or is it a partial industry, where Neil has, in his research in the past, has explained partial industrialization of tourism industry. The problem we see with the change in government policies and in terms of tourism or regenerative tourism is that tourism is an open industry. So there is no barrier to entry and exit. So anyone can start a tourism business tomorrow, and he or she doesn't need to prove to the authorities, local government or the council that they are doing X, Y, and Z. But on the other hand, you cannot go down there and open a health clinic, because there are lots of legislations and regulations in place. So because of this, their government agencies can change policies so quickly. So there is no legislation at national level to stop or set a direction for both the industry and other stakeholders that you are going in this direction. But when we look at health, for example, we have seen throughout COVID and even before and after that, there is a set directions that you have to improve the salaries of the healthcare providers, doctors, nurses, and other related agencies. So those industry has to provide those inputs. But for tourism, there is no legislation that says that you have to pay a good wages to your workers. Everyone that I know and numerous businesses that I provide services to, and my observation, mostly, especially people who are affiliated with tourism, they just pay the minimum wage. So there is no regulatory. They come here, they open their shop for one season, and they close it and then just move on, do something else. So that's why there is no set direction, legislation that would set direction for MBIE and both Tourism NZ or TIA or any other agency that you have to do this. Rather, they are heavily reliant on the funding they get from national government. All these RTOs that I mentioned earlier, they get funding. The number of RTOs has been coming down in the past. We used to have more RTOs as compared to now. So they all rely on tourist dollars. So they rely on that, and government policies change. They want to grow tourists, so they pump money into marketing tourism in New Zealand, so internationally. So what everyone would do is all these tourism business, they react to that policy. The response from TIA or Tourism NZ. So it's all reactionary. It's a very volatile market. So it is, and that's why we see so many fluctuations and inconsistencies in tourism-related policies, both at national, regional level. Thank you.
Many thanks. So now we are pleased to give Malcolm Cooper the stage.
Okay, thank you very much. Very, very interesting and provocative presentations. Just a point, Asif, thank you very much for showing me my country again. I'm actually a New Zealander, so it was good to see that at least the country is working along the lines of doing what it said it always did, which was to bring in culture and environment as an intrinsic part of tourism. So we start from regeneration. The word regeneration has just been looked at closely in the last couple of minutes. I think that regeneration is in fact a step beyond sustainability, but only if the orientation and the ownership of what's going on is actually recognized as local. I believe that regeneration is also very difficult in the situation of governments and industry being separate from the communities. I know in some of the research that we've been doing is actually in revitalization of depopulated areas, but we have things like closing the eye sites in New Zealand and Australia because the funding has been withdrawn by local government, and there's nothing much in place for it at the national level. So, you know, we have disruption all the time when you're trying to build a coherent approach to tourism and what it should be in our regions. There's a whole lot of things that I could mention. I really do think, though, that the idea of relational guiding is a very critical one here, because it's the community has to actually take control of what it's got and push it to the industry, not the other way around. Restoration, coexistence, surely. Partnerships, definitely. We have a number of good examples of that in Australia, for example, the geotourism trails you may know about. We need better collaboration between all of the stakeholders. But more importantly, as I said at the beginning, we need to change the ownership of where the industry is going. A lot of people have said tonight, that there are problems with the corporations coming in and taking their pound or their dollar or flesh and then moving on. Well, then let's make that impossible to do if we can. But it would take a lot stronger direction from government and community to actually achieve that. And then, but having said that, a lot of people, we all know, you know, I know, a lot of corporations are in fact very good players in this situation, but there's no coherent theoretical background and framework for it all. So I'm hoping that the handbook does that, and the research that we can do together later on from now also does that, brings the community to the forefront of the decision-making process. Thank you very much for a very interesting webinar. And I hope I summarised some of it a little bit.
Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you, Francis. That's a wonderful discussion. And Francis, do you want to continue, or may I wrap it up? Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I think you did a great job in terms of the combination of the presentations and the structure, how you look at the concept of regeneration. So to regenerate is something, and I think you covered it with a very wise way that you started with Asif, that had an institutional view on regeneration. Then we have two way of looking at the concept in the field. Elena and Stefania, they look at the concept in quantitative point of view, bringing the information, analyze it, and they see how the regeneration is perceived. And Frida, in a qualitative way, how human-nature relationship has been formed, the landscape, and how this landscape is going to be interpreted with the humans who visit a place, and how to bring this background. I think it is all about what Francis, you mentioned about the sustainable, I think, livelihood approach, looking at social capital, natural capital, human capital, and economic capital to regenerate them. And I think regeneration of social and human capital is totally different with economic capital. The approaches are different. But what tourism can do, and how tourism is going to regenerate these capitals, social, natural, economic, and human, is important point of this discussion. Tourism is going to bring all these resources as an attraction to redevelop or to regenerate them by developing a product, a tourism product, because they are not originally for tourism. They are for the livelihood of people who have association with the place, with the resources, how they sustained, how they adapt their livelihood and the resources, and then they created a story, but the story need to be regenerated, and the guiding style that Frida mentioned is about that we bring this to a tourism product. So if we bring tourism to produce a tourist attraction of all these resources and capitals, what we need is an institutional capital. And through this institutional capital, we need to conduct research how this institutional capital can reuse the resources for tourism as an attraction and to contribute to the local community in terms of empowerment, revitalization, and regeneration of the resources itself. And I just saw your book, Francis, on the regenerative tourism and the handbook. And I think that with this, it means that we are just in the beginning. So you have started a very hot discussion that is one of the missions of tourism and sustainable tourism. And I think you are going to bring more discussions in your future webinars, if I'm allowed to already decide. But yes, we need you to come up with regenerative tourism, maybe in each of these categories, maybe because we cannot cover everything in one session. Maybe in one category we have to do what is regenerative tourism and social capital, or what is regenerative tourism and economic capital, as was mentioned, if it is going to be invested from outside, and then how to make sure that the outcomes stay with the community and with the local, or regenerative tourism in different places. Like in Japan, for example, regenerative tourism is more about human capital. And I'm sure in Italy is the same, because we have aging and depopulation, especially in locals. But in some other part of the world that they have plenty of young generation, regenerative is just to create job, is to focus more on economic resources or economic capital. So this is institutional approach that I believe Asif and his institution is looking at. This concept is very important to see that how regenerative tourism is more place-based and more specific with one of these sustainable livelihood resources. Thank you very much. Our time is almost 10 minutes past from the planned 90 minutes of the webinar. I don't know if there are other questions in the chat. Yes, we have one more. It's custom holds. Thank you for sharing the interesting and ideas. The community ownership is certainly important, but how about aging population in villages that, oh, okay, this, I think I just mentioned this fact, where not only economic capital, but also social and human capital is scarce. We here face the need to find a way to attract new residents. Yes, in Portugal. Yeah, actually, I'm doing some research in Portugal at the moment, and in the north of the country, where is very close to the borders with Spain, and they have a wonderful traditional landscape of grazing, very similar to New Zealand, and is designated by United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization as agri-heritage. And yes, depopulation and the lifestyle is a heritage. The landscape cannot be conserved without adoption of the lifestyle, but traditional farming is not attractive anymore because of lack of economic capital or economic benefits. So how to create value adding and create more interest for adoption of this lifestyle is the key, I think, answer to this question. We need to provide jobs, and we need to make this lifestyle more attractive to attract people who might be interested to come in. Otherwise, without practical life or livelihood solution, we can't do much. So again, this structure can be a very useful structure for answering the last
Well,
question.
it's the subject of our book, Kazem. Remember that.
Yes.
Depopulation in Portugal, as well as Spain, Italy, and so on.
Yes, exactly. What Malcolm is finalizing. I think one of our chapters are looking at Spain, Italy, and Portugal to see how the regenerative tourism can lead to community development and conservation of traditional landscape. So
One, just want to comment on that question, if it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kasim.
Sure.
Yeah. In New Zealand, the cost of living crisis is the key impediment for those dying villages. You know, where there is an elderly population, the housing prices has gone up so much that young families, they can't afford to live in small villages. So that acts as a brain drain to and people migrate to bigger cities. We have noticed that here on the peninsula quite a lot recently, and that is the key. Housing here.
Tell me about it. My daughter lives in Christchurch, or two of them live in Christchurch.
Yes.
And then they're in the process of buying houses.
Great.
Average house price in Accra is $1 million.
Yeah.
2-bedroom house. $1 million. Thank you.
Looks
Thank
like
you very
I'll be
much.
staying in Japan. Sorry.
Okay, so again, we are not going to end this topic. We are just going to begin. And Francis, this is your maybe next planning job to invite your speakers again, and as you did design and architect this webinar, continue the topic with us. Thank you for everybody who stayed with us and you spend your weekend, but I'm sure that you have reasons and interest to follow the topic. Very special thanks to all of you. I think my colleagues in Scott, they opened the videos for a group photo. So those who are with us, if you want, please turn on your cameras and let's have a group photo together with big smiles that I can already see. Okay, great. So yes, let me check if we got the photo. Yes. Thank you very much. And we are looking to see you again. And we are looking through your comments and your support as always. Thank you very much and have a good weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you and let's stay in touch.